Welcome back. Still taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Still taking your tweets at Josh Taylor HD. We go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Eddie in East Liberty. Eddie, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, congratulations, Josh. You, Chris, and Pony. You know what I mean? I'm happy for you guys. I want to talk about the defense. I think short-sighted, they built this team for speed, and they built this team to beat New England, and it's obvious.
I think I lost Eddie.
You got fast linebackers, man.
Eddie, if you can, call back. I think we lost you. Couldn't hear you there in the earpiece. Might have lost the connection there. Let's keep rolling. David on the south side. David, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say a couple things.
Okay.
And that is that some teams just have a team's number. Just like the Steelers got Kansas City's number, New England got ours. If the Steelers would concentrate on beating the teams that they should, we would be awesome. What do you think?
Can't disagree with that. Thanks for the call. You had me on a pretty good thread there when you mentioned that sometimes a team just has another team's number. Here's a really weird look at the AFC. We saw Kansas City go into Foxborough and beat New England. Then we saw the Steelers go into Kansas City, beat the Chiefs. The Steelers still have to face New England. How weird would it be if New England beat the Steelers? So you have a situation here where it seems like one team is geared to beat another, and that team is geared to beat another one, but that team is geared to beat the first team. Sometimes that game is that weird. But to your point about beating the teams they should beat, yes, they should be more prepared and motivated to beat a Chicago. They should be more prepared and more motivated to beat a Jacksonville, and they should execute better in both of those situations. I don't know if it's a level of focus or preparation as much as it is doing what you're supposed to do. I don't know if it's much of its preparation as it is don't throw 5 interceptions in a game at home against a team that runs the ball really well that happens to be the best rushing team in the league when you don't have one of the better run defenses in the league. You're just giving them more opportunities. When you give the other team the ball 5 extra times, not counting punts, not counting change of possession after scoring, but 5 more times on top of that, you're pretty much setting yourself up for disappointment and probably setting yourself up for a loss. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Nikki in Pittsburgh. Nikki, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hello?
Hello, Nikki.
Hey, Josh. First of all, I have to tell you, your facial expressions are hilarious. and secondly, what do you think about Niemi?
Auntie Niemi, that's a good question. Thank you for the call. I have 2 thoughts about this. The first thing is Auntie Niemi's gotten a raw deal in some of these back-to-backs. Had to go to play on the road in Chicago, had to go play on the road in Tampa. Not to mention the fact that I think we're learning just how good Penguins fans had it for that couple of years, where you had a number 1 in Marc-Andre Fleury, a veteran who'd been here for more than a decade. Then you have a budding number 1 on the way in Matt Murray. Then he gets here and blossoms into that guy. So you have 2 number 1s playing the same position. And then you realize most backups usually aren't as good as Marc-Andre Fleury or Matt Murray. I think we're learning that the hard way. I think this is going to be something that we run into during the course of the season. And they've got a couple more back-to-backs coming up here in the next couple weeks. So this could be a problem, excuse me, this could be a problem moving forward. We might see more games like this. They're probably not going to be pretty. You hope a couple of them might be at home, so maybe it's a little bit easier on the Emmy, but having to do these back-to-backs on the road cannot be an easy situation for him. Let's take a couple more calls before we leave. Actually, we'll start with Twitter. We have Jason who says, if it's true about Martavis Bryant, just let him go. Don't want players here that don't want to be here. And honestly, it really is a tough situation for Martavis Bryant. Think about it just from the position standpoint. You have a guy in Juju Smith-Schuster who they just drafted. You still have Antonio Brown, who's been signed to a big extension, so he's not going anywhere. And then you have another group of guys. Justin Hunter is in this group. You have Darius Hayward-Bay, who's still here. You still have Eli Rogers, whom the coach and quarterback seem to like a lot. So maybe there's no room for Martavis Bryant here. And if you're a guy who has this kind of talent, has this kind of resume, despite all the off-the-field problems, you're probably going to want another chance, another opportunity where you're more appreciated or you have more opportunity to shine. If that's the case, maybe it is in the best interest of both parties for him to move on. But once again, that's assuming that the report is true. We might hear more clarity on it as we go along. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Brian in Portview. Brian, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, Josh. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I hate to be a wet blanket, but I'm going to be. We've heard for the last several years from Ben and the other members of this offense that they feel that they have the talent and the ability to put up 30, 35 points a game, but consistently, week after week, year after year, they seem to struggle to put up 20. And the other point that I want to make, as good as Le'Veon Bell is, and we all think he's probably the most talented running back in football, I think you would agree that our running back situation is the best that it's been in probably the last several years. We have James Conner as a backup, and Terrell Watson is another very capable backup. I would like to have Bell healthy and productive in the playoffs and fresh, and I just don't understand why somebody like James Conner, who is so talented, gets one carry a ball game.
That's a good question, and thanks for the call. To your point about the first thing, I think you're right. It doesn't make you a wet blanket. That makes you honest. That makes you a realistic person. I discussed this quite a bit. I discussed it after week 1 in Cleveland, and someone else called and told me I was the doctor of doom. So you're not alone in that regard. But as far as the running back situation, I think the depth of it does preserve a Le'Veon Bell. But at the same time, I don't know if James Conner gets some of the gains that Le'Veon Bell did in that second half. That patience that he has, that ability to wait things out and find something, that's not something you find everywhere. And that probably is what makes him a little bit more successful than some other running backs might be. Got to take a break, wrapping it up on the other side. Stick around.